Okay, so I am excited and a little nervous to be steering the ship on my own self podcast episode once more. Laura is traveling right now with the family, and just our week was so crazy before she left for her little mini vacation to celebrate Matthew. So we just had a difficult time matching up our schedules this week and making the podcast recording a priority in amongst the many different things that we're juggling. So I am taking a stab at the solo podcast episode again this week. And I wanted to talk about a topic that has really been on my mind lately as I try to continue to work through, I guess, a lot of changing seasons and evolutions in not only my business, but also in personal life. As we've talked about before, I'm a mom of two little kids, and I'm a business owner, and I'm a wife, and I am a family member. I've got a lot of different things going on all at once. And I'm trying to find that sweet spot. And I think that a lot of you can probably relate to it, of that sweet spot of where you feel like you've done enough, you've been productive enough in each of the areas of your life. So for me, being a business owner, it's making sure that I'm maintaining my client files and meeting my deadlines and really staying in tune with my team members. And then showing up as a good partner and a business partner to Laura. And then when I flip to more of my personal life, it's making sure I'm carving out that time for my kids and making sure that I'm having intentional time with Joey, my husband, and also making sure that I'm slicing out time to, keep in touch with friends and family. And I mean, when you start to talk about it, and when I start to think about all of the different things that I want to do and the priorities that I want to carve time out for, it can get really overwhelming. It can get to a point where you say, like, how in the world can you just fit it all in? And it's funny because Laura talked about this last week when we talked about a similar topic, how you should really adjust and strategize per season when there are changes. And she said something like, people do say, like, how do you do it all? How do you guys keep it all together? And we are so honest to say, like, the image or the perception that you might have is just a slice of the reality that is behind the scenes and what we deal with every single day. As it stands right now, I'm recording this podcast from home before I have to go pick up my kids from school. And I'm trying to fit it all in and make sure that I'm doing it in a way that meets my needs and meets the goals that I have and the responsibilities I have and the obligations I have, both business and personal. So I've been thinking a lot about this topic. Okay, like, is there a strategy? Is there something that I can implement that can really help me to prioritize more and really give the energy and the effort that I want to in these different areas of my life, but not overdo it? Because if you are also like me, you are ready to write a to-do list that is about, I don't know, a page long. And you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to get A through Z done. And that's going to make me feel fulfilled. And that's going to make me feel like I am meeting the goals and the expectations I have for myself. And that used to be me. I'll be very honest with you. I used to be one of those people that would say, and I still am to a certain degree, I love a good checklist and a good to-do list. But I used to be one of those people that says, when I get through all of these things, I'm going to be happy. When I get through all of these things, I'm going to feel fulfilled. When I get through all of these things on my to-do list, I'm going to feel successful. And with age and experience and changing circumstances in my life and more development and research and awareness in this space, it is more than abundantly clear to me that it is all about the journey to getting from A to Z that is going to produce for you the feelings of happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, and feeling like you're making progress towards whatever your goals are, whatever you want to set as another goalpost for yourself or a benchmark for yourself. So while I love the idea of checking off a box and completing a task, it's really about trying to do it in a balanced approach that is not going to lead to the overwhelm and burnout that I know as a working mom, and I see it with my husband as a working dad. Which, by the way, anybody ever just stop and think about that for a second? How working moms are labeled working moms and dads are not labeled working dads? Anybody? Well, we're going to talk about it here. So my husband, a working dad, is trying to meet all of his responsibilities and his commitments in his volunteer sphere of life and also show up as an incredible dad. So we're all trying to juggle and figure out how to do this. And I journal every single morning. And this is one of the things that I've been writing about this week because I have felt like after getting through my to-do list for the day, after getting, the kids home and settled at home, I have felt like I'm giving the rest to my family. I'm not giving the best to my family. And I'm not saying that that has to be every single day, but this was something that I heard from a mentor years ago, where she said that the reason that she made the adjustments in her career and her business was because she wanted to give the best to her family and not the rest to her family. And that phrase has always stuck with me. It's not always on the tip of my tongue. It's not always on the top of my mind, but it's something that when I go through these seasons of real reflection and, introspection, it's one of those phrases that when it pops back up in my head, I know exactly why I am thinking it. I know exactly what I need to start focusing on better. And it really truly is the energy that I'm exerting every single day. Case closed, bottom line, it's about my energy. It's about the energy that I am directing at certain things, certain tasks, certain responsibilities versus the energy that is probably being wasted and mismanaged. And this applies in both your business and your life. And that's why I wanted to talk about this topic today, because I think it is applicable whether you're struggling with trying to make progress or make the right progress in your business efforts, or you're trying to struggle with managing that chaos that we talk about in our intro to our podcast episodes. The chaos and the struggles and the challenges that you face as a working parent, and really realizing that there are ways to get unstuck and there are ways to get progress moving forward, but you just have to really stop and reflect on your energy, how you're spending it, and what those next steps are. So couple of takeaways that I want to hit upon. The first thing that I want to talk about is a range of action. Okay. When you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you haven't made progress in a meaningful way towards a goal or an expectation that you have for yourself, start thinking about what the range of action is that you demand of yourself. And the way that I can best illustrate this, if you're a visual person like me, you remember having those rulers that were taped or painted on or glued onto the top of your desk when you were in grade school, and there was the left side all the way to the right side, however many inches that ruler was. I want you to imagine that as your graphic in your head when you're talking about a range of action. So let's keep that image in our mind. And let's say, as it relates to your business, you are trying to really increase your networking efforts because you really are not focusing on the networking and building on your client base or building within your clients, and trying to approach existing clients and asking them how you can further service their businesses. So if you're looking at that ruler in your mind, what is the minimum amount that you are willing to commit to doing? And what's the maximum amount, which is on that right side of the ruler, that you are committing to doing? And what are you not going to exceed so that you are not burning yourself out in the process of reaching your goals? So if it's networking, it could be the minimum amount is you need to contact one brand new contact every single week and one existing contact every single week, whether that be a colleague or a client. You need to follow up with one brand new one or one that you've recently met and want to re-engage with. And you need to follow up with one existing client of yours to check in and see what's going on, see what's new, see how else their business might change, see how you might be able to service them a little bit better. And then the other side of the spectrum could be a maximum number of 3 new people and 3 existing clients or 3 existing sources of referrals and reach out to them. But you see how you have a spectrum to work within, and you're not going to do more than that, because what happens is sometimes we're like, "Oh, let's take that to-do, let's make it as long as we possibly can, and let's start checking as vigorously as possible and just keep going, 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 and going." And you get to a point where you're burning yourself out. You're doing more. It's great. But sometimes less is much more than more. Sometimes finding that sweet spot that's consistent, that you can maintain that tempo over time, is going to be more effective in the long run than it is if you're trying to push and hustle and grind and get to the furthest maximum extreme. Oftentimes why resolutions fail at the beginning of the year is because you try to do too much in a short burst of time. And then you say, well, what happened? I was doing all the right things and now I'm exhausted, or now I'm sick, or now I'm X, Y, and Z. I've lost motivation. I've lost determination. Yeah, because you were doing too much. You were biting off more than you could chew. And there's a reason that cliche exists. If you're biting off more than you can chew, think about that image for a second and think about what that means. You can't even continue to chew on whatever it is that you've bitten off because it's too much for you to handle. And that's exactly how you'll get if you keep on butting up against that maximum and going over and over. So I gave you a business example, and let's go back to a personal example, right? A range of action. Let's say you're trying to spend more quality time with your family at home, and you tend to be a workaholic and tend to not know when the boundary line is, for you to stop doing work or stop answering emails or what have you. Your range of action could be something like this, that the minimum is that you are checking your work phone up until 7 o'clock in the evenings, and then it has to go away. The maximum could be that you block off 2 nights a week where you are jumping back on the computer after the kids go to bed. But from the hours of 5:30 until 8:30, you are completely unequivocally available for your family. There's got to be a range, right? There's got to be goalposts, like a minimum to a maximum, right? Somewhere that you can feel comfortable and confident. You're going to feel restricted because if you are an overachiever, like I know that sometimes seeing that maximum, it's like, oh, but I could do a little bit extra. I could do a little bit more than what that maximum is. That's great. You could do it tomorrow. It's like when you are working out at the gym, the minimum number of minutes that you're going to work out at the gym, 15 minutes. The maximum number is 35 minutes. And you're not going to go a minute over that, because guess what? If you keep pushing yourself and you're not taking care or addressing all the other aspects of your life that might be taking from your energy, you're going to burn yourself out by consistently going overboard on that maximum extreme. So that's one strategy, is giving yourself a range of action, and sticking to it, and making it non-negotiable. This is the minimum amount. It'll still make progress. And this is the maximum amount. You're going to move the needle, but you don't need to try and push yourself beyond that, because anything beyond that, you're just going to lead yourself towards burnout that much faster. The other thing that I have really started to tap into is recalling the book of proof idea. And I know I talked about this on another podcast episode previously, but oftentimes we can get frustrated by current circumstances because we say to ourselves, like, why was this so easy for me to do before? Why was I able to block out 2 hours on a Sunday and meal prep for the week? Why was I able to go for a walk in the morning before I started my workday and sat down at the computer? How was I able to get my 10,000 steps in? How was I able to schedule in that coffee date with my best friend every single week? What was I doing that it was so easy back then, right? We always say that it was so easy back then. It was so different back then. And why can't I do it now? So we're trying to look for that evidence somewhere of, well, I liked how I felt. I enjoyed doing this. It brought me results. How do I do it again? And those questions are going to really bring you to the next steps and action items that you need to take. But you have to have that reflection. You have to make that time for that introspection. Success leaves clues, right? So just to give you an example, I was talking a little bit about, health and wellness and fitness there is I remember when my daughter was little and my husband was home with her on a Sunday afternoon and she was probably going down for a nap or he was playing with her or taking her outside or whatever. I would block out that time to get meal prepping done for the week and get some chores done and just keep on top of some things. I also used to be a creature of habit when it came to throwing a load of laundry in every single morning, 5:30 in the morning when I was up and I was starting my morning routine. A load of laundry would go in so that on the weekends I didn't have a backloaded 6 loads of laundry to take care of. As a working mom, you guys, I know that you can relate to me. It's like Saturdays and Sundays were built not for us to rest from the work week, but for laundry. I don't know where it all comes from, but it's like I turn around and the hamper's full again. So I started thinking about these things again because there are certain things that after becoming a mom and becoming a new mom for the second time, they just slipped off to the wayside. And I was just trying to get my feet on the ground with having 2 little kids that were always running underneath them. And I said to myself, okay, what was I doing back then that made this process seem so much more seamless? Well, I was making better plans on the weekends. I wasn't letting the weekends kind of control me. I was really putting my measure of control on my time. And I wasn't just letting the day run away from me. I was actually being a lot more structured in what my Saturdays and my Sundays looked like so that I could get all of this stuff done. I could, slice out the time that I needed to in order to do all of these things. So I started looking back and saying, okay, when was I doing this before and how did I do it then? That's your book of proof. And this applies to your personal life, your personal goals. It applies to your business goals, your expectations of yourself. It applies to your habits in general. When was it that you were doing the thing that you feel like you need to do now and you just can't figure out how to get back into that rhythm and that routine? And then you just start, right? And we've talked about this before too. Sometimes overthinking it is going to deter and paralyze you from taking one meaningful step forward. Sometimes you just need to take that action step forward. But in order to know what actions to take, it's a really great practice to go back through and think to yourself, when was this working for me before? How did I carve out that time to meet Sally for a cup of coffee on a Thursday afternoon? Oh, that's right. I made sure I didn't schedule any meetings and I made sure that I had my husband picking up the kids so that Sally and I could meet from 4:30 to 5:30, 5:30 to 6 o'clock, whatever it is. Or maybe she'd be even flexible to meet for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And we just quick grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and then we're off and doing our own thing. Or maybe I'm going to go sit on the Peloton bike and pop my AirPods in, and I'm going to give her a call And so now I'm doing two things at the same time, but I'm still accomplishing the connection that I want with my friend. And I'm also doing something else that's meaningful that's probably going to take up time out of my day too. Right. Um, I know that sometimes it could feel really, really counterintuitive to spend all of this time thinking about what you're going to do or planning what you're going to do and the steps you're going to take and the strategies to get yourself unstuck and make meaningful progress. But if you're just going to continue to do the same things over and over again because you're not making the time to try and do it differently, then you're not going to make those big moments of progress. You're not going to see yourself get unstuck. The greatest visual ever, whenever I feel like I need just like a little bit of a pivot or a little bit of a change in direction to really kickstart my motivation or my discipline to do something differently, is the idea that a plane could take off in Los Angeles for let's just say, and if it's a degree off and it's heading towards New York, but it's a degree or two off, it's going to land in Boston. So it's the idea that those little small pivotal changes can be so huge and can be they can produce a great amount of change if you're willing to make those small changes. And ultimately the takeaway is that you have to be committed to be introspective and to be reflective and to say to yourself, okay, Am I really setting myself up for success by creating strategies like a range of action? Am I really setting myself up for success by thinking about when I was successful before, when I was able to do all of the things that I wanted to do and be able to manage it all in a better way and not, so much of the chaos that sometimes it can feel like being a working parent? It's about taking that time, making that time for yourself to really be reflective of where you are right now, where you want to be, and trying new strategies to see if they will work for you.